If you've got a boring front entryway like I did, let me show you how to add a board and batten accent wall. This is a great beginner project. Let me show you how to do every step. Before just jumping into your project, you're going to want to figure out the layout of your battens. I've linked the layout calculator in the description. This is going to help you figure out where all your vertical battens go, and you're going to try to avoid things like outlets, vents, and light switches. I mean, you don't have to, but then you might end up with a batten going straight through an outlet, and then you have to cut around it, and it just looks kind of wonky. So do the work ahead of time and get the layout calculator. I'm going to be using 1x4 pine for both my vertical and my horizontal pieces. Let me show you how to cut it. When you cut a board, you want to put it flat up against this back fence. And then you're going to bring down the blade without your finger anywhere near the trigger to see where you're going to cut. You're going to make it completely go as fast as it can before you cut. So pull trigger. Let the blade stop. Bring it back up. There you go. Now, figuring out where this top board goes is really up to you. A lot of people do 1/3 of the way up the wall or 2/3 of the way up the wall, but you can really pick whichever one you want. The important part is to make sure it is level. Then you're going to measure for your vertical pieces. Do not assume your floors are level and that all the vertical pieces will be the same length, because they won't be. Measure each vertical spot. Write down all the different measurements, and then it's time to cut. I'm using that same 1x4 pine, and I'm cutting it on the miter saw. You could also use a hand saw with this. It would just take a little bit longer. Oh, you can see that I'm not using construction adhesive. You do not need wood glue or construction adhesive at all for a board and batten accent wall. Brad nails alone are going to hold it just fine. If you're wondering what length brad nails to use, I always do the thickness of the wood plus the thickness of the drywall. So this is 3/4 inch wood plus 1/2 inch drywall. So I'm using 1 1/4 inch brad nails. This is going to ensure that you won't hit any pipes or wires in your walls, because the nails are going to stay hidden in the drywall. You could stop here. This is just regular old board and batten. You could add some hooks on the top. You paint it all one color, paint it the same color as the wall just for a little bit out of dimension. Looks gorgeous. But we're going to take it another step. We're going to add some horizontal pieces right here underneath the light switches. Again, I'm using that same 1x4 pine. These measurements should all be the same if you spaced your battens evenly, but you might want to go ahead and double check, because you might have been off by 1/16 of an inch or something. Again, no construction adhesive. Step away from the glue. Just use brad nails. It's going to create plenty of hold, I promise. Now again, you could leave it like this, paint it all the same color. It would look amazing, but we're going to take it one step further, and we're going to add some trim to each of these boxes. All right, we're going to add trim. Oh my goodness. Yes, all inside all of these boxes. These are called miter shears, and they are perfect for cutting something like PVC trim. Just mark where you want it, and then line that line up with this line that's on the miter shears, and then just squeeze, and it cuts right through. Isn't that beautiful? At the difference a little trim can make. Kind of a little bit boring, but wow. Now imagine that in every single one of these boxes. Yes, it's gonna be amazing. Actually, this isn't even secured yet. It's just held in by tension, and it looks amazing. You want to cut these fairly tight, so actually you can see that this is going to stay in without me having even nailed it yet. But then we're going to attach it with the same brad nails. I'm using different angles to really create that section. And again, do not use glue. Now, walls are never flat. So if you have some uneven spots between your battens and your horizontal and vertical pieces, just put some shims behind this. I'm just kind of wedging this in there with my putty knife, and then I'm sticking in some pine shims. If you weren't using interior trim, then you could just caulk this gap, but since we are using trim, it's going to hide it beautifully. Again, you could leave it like this. It's going to look amazing, but I'm going to add a little bit more. I'm going to use pine 1x2s laid on their side to kind of create this little ledge here on top. I think this is really going to finish it off, and I'm going to add some of that same trim underneath it in a second. But first, I'm just using this. My wall was very, very wonky, but I tried to just kind of bend it as best I could and then secure with brad nails down through the top. And then I'm using that same decorative molding that I used inside each of the boxes. This is actually PVC base cap molding, and it works great for this. All right, it is almost time to paint, but first we've got to prep. We're going to wood fill, we're going to caulk everything. Thank you, baby.
Because you're my mommy.
I know, babe.
I didn't want any other mommies than you. You're my bestest mommy in the whole entire universe.
Really? All these kiddos are my biggest cheerleaders. But I'm giving everything a coat of paint. This is the color Even Better Beige by Bear, and it's so gorgeous. If you have any nails sticking out, you can use this. It's called a nail punch or a nail set. It has a concave end, and you kind of place it over the nail, and then you just hammer it with a hammer. And then once the nail is lower than the surface of the wood, you're just going to add your wood filler, let that dry, and then when it's dry, sand it smooth, and then prime and paint. I want this to have a really crisp line between the wall and this cream color. So it's going to take 3 steps. Painter's tape, previous paint color, new paint color. So let me show you how to do that. First, put some painter's tape on here. Then right along the seam, you're going to apply the previous paint color. So in my case, this white. That way, if anything seeps underneath this blue paint, it's going to be white. You have the blue painter's tape, and then you seal it with the white color, right? The color of the wall. And then once that dries, we'll do the cream color. While that dries, I decided to switch out the overhead light. I was getting too many lines. Like now everything was too many straight lines. So I needed something with some kind of curve. So I found this cute light on Amazon, and I think it really helps a lot. Once the white is dry, then you're going to go back in with your cream. Do a nice thick layer. And then while the second paint is wet, peel. Beautiful. Oh man, we are in the final touches of this accent wall. I'm so excited with how this turned out. I mean, look at all of these details. I love the extra trim that I did on the inside of each of the boxes. I feel like it really adds a lot. All right, well, there she is, all finished. I love how this turned out. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments. And if you love DIY projects, hit that subscribe button for more.